The sky changed without warning. One moment it was blue and calm, and the next it was filled with dark shapes that did not belong to Earth. Huge alien ships hovered above cities, oceans, and empty land. They were silent at first. No fire. No attack. Just presence. People stopped what they were doing and looked up. Cars slowed. Planes turned back. Life paused as if the world was holding its breath. Soon a message reached every screen. Phones lit up. Old radios crackled. Screens in shops and homes showed the same image. Tall alien figures stood in rows, their faces hard and still. Their leader spoke in a flat voice. The message was simple. Earth was now under their control. Humans were told to stay calm, follow orders, and wait for further instructions. The aliens said resistance was useless. They believed fear would do the rest. In many cities, people gathered outside. Some cried. Some prayed. Some stood silent. No one knew what to do. There were no clear orders from governments. No armies moved into the streets. No loud speeches filled the air. This silence confused the aliens. They watched closely from above, waiting for panic, riots, or attacks. None came. In a small power station near a river, Daniel Wright worked through the night. He was a quiet man who avoided attention. He fixed broken machines and checked old systems most people had forgotten. When the alien ships arrived, he did not stop. He knew that power and water mattered more than fear. Without them, people would suffer. He spoke little, but he worked fast. A few others stayed with him. No one gave orders. They just understood what needed to be done. Across town, Emily Parker stood in a school hallway filled with children. The younger ones cried when they saw the ships. The older ones asked questions she could not answer. Emily did not shout or lie. She spoke slowly and softly. She told them they were safe for now. She turned classrooms into quiet spaces. She told stories. She gave them simple tasks. Drawing. Cleaning. Helping younger students. Fear did not disappear, but it softened. The aliens watched these small actions. Their scanners showed no large military movement. No missiles launched. No tanks rolled. Human leaders did not appear on screens to shout threats. To the alien commanders, this meant weakness. They had conquered many worlds before. Panic always came first. Then surrender. Earth did not follow the pattern. In cities, shops closed early, but neighbors shared food. People checked on the elderly. Doctors stayed at hospitals even when no one asked them to. Firefighters waited quietly, ready. There was fear, but it did not explode. It spread slowly like fog, and people learned to walk through it together. Daniel noticed small power drops across the city. Alien ships caused strange signals. He adjusted systems by hand when computers failed. He used old notes and memory. When a water pump stopped, he and two others fixed it with tools they found in storage. No one filmed them. No one praised them. They worked because someone had to. Emily stayed at the school overnight. Parents could not reach the building because transport slowed. She made sleeping areas with blankets. She sang softly to calm the youngest children. When a child asked if the aliens would hurt them, Emily paused. She did not promise safety. She said, "Right now we are together. That matters." The child nodded and held her hand. Above the clouds, alien observers recorded everything. Their reports noted human stillness. They marked cities as passive. They predicted quick control. They believed humans were waiting for orders because they could not decide on their own. They did not understand that humans were already deciding, quietly and separately. The next day, alien ships moved lower. Shadows crossed streets and rivers. Another message came. Humans were told to register and remain indoors. Again, no force followed the words. People listened, but not all in the same way. Some stayed inside. Others went to help neighbors first, then returned. Rules bent slightly, not out of anger but care. Daniel walked home briefly to check on his mother. He made sure her lights worked and her water ran. He did not talk about the aliens much. He fixed a loose wire and left again. His mother watched the sky and whispered that humans had seen dark times before. Daniel nodded and went back to work. At the school, Emily organized parents who arrived later. She explained calmly what had happened. She gave children back to families one by one. She reminded parents to speak gently at home. Fear spread fast, but calm spread too if people carried it. Alien commanders met in long chambers filled with light and data. They reviewed Earth again and again. No strong reaction. No clear enemy. This made them uneasy, but they dismissed it. They decided humans were fragile, slow, and easy to shape. They planned tighter control next. On Earth, people rested when they could. Some cried alone. Some wrote messages to loved ones. Some sat in silence. But power stayed on. Water flowed. Children slept safely. Life did not stop. It changed its pace. As night fell, Daniel stood outside the power station and looked up. The alien ships glowed faintly. He felt fear but also a strange calm. He did not know what would happen tomorrow. He only knew what he would do. Keep things running. Help where he could. Emily stood at her window at home watching the same sky. She thought of her students and hoped they slept well. She felt small under the ships but not helpless. People were still people. That had not changed. Far above, aliens marked the day as a success. Earth was quiet. Earth was slow. Earth was weak. They were wrong but they did not know it yet. The next messages from the alien ships were colder and sharper. Screens across the world showed new rules. Cities were divided into zones. Each zone had a time limit to obey. Curfews were set. Travel was restricted. Registration points were marked. The aliens said order would bring safety. Any delay would bring punishment. No details were given about what that punishment meant. Fear returned, stronger than before. People read the rules again and again. Some felt anger. Some felt helpless. But still, no open battle began. No loud resistance filled the streets. The aliens waited for crowds to gather in rage or panic. Instead, something quieter began to grow. In neighborhoods, doors opened carefully. People spoke in low voices. Food was counted and shared. Someone with extra rice gave some away. Someone with medicine checked who needed it most. Old skills became useful again. People who knew how to fix things, grow food, or treat wounds were suddenly important. Daniel Wright moved between buildings with a small bag of tools. Many systems began to fail as alien signals interfered with machines. Elevators stopped. Water sensors broke. Power flickered in strange ways. Daniel did not fight the machines. He simplified them. He removed parts that were no longer needed. He used wires, tape, and hand tools. When computers failed, he used switches and manual controls. Things ran slower, but they ran. Others watched him and learned. He did not teach formally. He showed them once, then let them try. Soon small teams formed. One person watched power levels. Another checked water flow. They wrote notes on paper instead of screens. No one asked who was in charge. They only asked what needed to be done next. Across the city, Emily Parker returned to her school. Classes were officially suspended, but the building stayed open. Parents brought children there because it felt safe. Emily turned classrooms into shared spaces. One room for rest. One for food. One for quiet play. Older students helped younger ones. Teachers worked together without schedules. The school became a small island of calm. Emily spoke honestly with everyone. She did not say things would be fine. She said they would face each day as it came. She encouraged parents to talk to each other. Some parents could cook. Some could organize supplies. Some could keep watch outside. The school slowly became a center where people felt less alone. In other cities, different choices were made. Some areas followed alien rules exactly, afraid of making mistakes. Other areas bent the rules to help neighbors first. In rural places, people barely saw the ships and continued working the land. In crowded cities, people moved carefully, learning when to stay hidden and when to appear calm. This uneven response confused the aliens. Their systems expected clear patterns. Either full obedience or open rebellion. Instead, they saw thousands of small actions that did not connect into one shape. One city stayed silent. Another slowed down. Another changed routines every day. Their models struggled to keep up. Alien patrol ships flew lower, watching streets closely. They marked places where people gathered. But these places changed often. A food-sharing group met in one building one day, then another the next. A repair team worked at night, then early morning. There was no fixed schedule to control. Daniel was called to an old hospital when its backup power failed. He found outdated machines that no one had used in years. He made them work again by removing broken parts and using gravity instead of motors. Doctors watched closely and learned. The hospital lights returned, dim but steady. A nurse smiled for the first time in days. Emily helped organize lessons without books or screens. Children learned by talking, drawing, and helping. They learned how to stay calm. They learned how to listen. Some children asked why the aliens were angry. Emily said she did not know. She said sometimes people who want control are afraid of losing it. As days passed, alien warnings became stricter. Deadlines were shortened. Messages repeated the same words. Obey. Register. Wait. But humans did not wait the same way everywhere. Some waited quietly. Some prepared quietly. Some helped quietly. The aliens could not tell the difference. In one neighborhood, people built simple signal systems using lights and mirrors. Not to fight, but to warn each other if patrols came too close. In another, people used bicycles instead of cars to move supplies. In another, they dug small gardens in empty spaces. None of this looked dangerous from above. But together it kept people alive and steady. Daniel felt tired but focused. He slept little. When asked why he kept going, he said stopping would make things worse. That was all. Emily felt fear every night, but she did not let it shape her voice. She believed calm was something you could share like food. Alien commanders argued quietly among themselves. Reports did not match. Some cities showed compliance. Others showed strange delays. Others showed human activity that did not fit any threat level. The aliens increased surveillance, but that only produced more confusing data. Humans changed behavior as soon as it was noticed. The aliens had planned for one enemy. They found millions of small choices instead. One evening, a patrol ship hovered above Emily's school. Parents froze. Children went silent. Emily stepped outside slowly, hands open. She followed the rules exactly in that moment. The ship scanned the building and moved on. Inside, people breathed again. That night, they changed how the school worked just a little. Daniel heard about a new restriction on movement and adjusted power routes again. He spread systems out so no single failure would stop everything. He smiled faintly when he saw it work. From orbit, Earth looked calm but unclear. The aliens marked this phase as unstable but manageable. They believed more pressure would bring order. On the ground, people felt the pressure. And instead of breaking, they leaned toward each other, quietly, one small choice at a time. The pressure changed shape. One morning, screens went dark. Phones stopped working. Trains halted between stations. Planes stayed on the ground. The aliens had cut networks and transport at the same time. They expected fear to rise fast and loud. They expected people to feel trapped and helpless. At first, there was confusion. People tried devices again and again. Buttons did nothing. Signals failed. Then, slowly, movement returned in a different way. Not the old way. A new one. Humans stopped trusting fixed plans. They stopped waiting for systems to come back. Each day became its own problem to solve. What worked yesterday might fail today, so nothing stayed the same for long. People learned to change quickly and accept mistakes without anger. Michael Harris stood at a street corner with a notebook and a pencil. He had once worked in city transport, planning routes and schedules. Now schedules were useless. Roads opened and closed without warning. Bridges were watched. Fuel was rare. Michael did not try to control everything. He listened. People came to him with small needs. A nurse needed a way to reach the hospital without using main roads. A farmer needed to move food at night. A family needed to cross the city quietly. Michael marked paths that worked today. Side streets. Walking routes. Bicycles. Small boats on the river. He shared the information by word of mouth and paper notes. The next day he changed it all again. No one called Michael a leader. He did not give orders. He suggested options. People chose what fit their situation. If something failed, they did not blame him. They adapted and told him what went wrong. Across the city, Anna Lewis sat in a small room with a radio powered by a hand crank. She had once worked as a local reporter. When the networks fell, rumors spread fast. Some said the aliens were killing cities in secret. Others said surrender was coming. Fear grew sharper than hunger. Anna decided silence was worse than bad news. She spoke every evening at the same hour. She told people what she knew and what she did not. She corrected false stories. She shared warnings without drama. She shared small successes too. A hospital still running. A water system restored. A neighborhood helping another. People trusted her voice because she did not sound brave or hopeless. She sounded human. The aliens watched the broken networks and expected collapse. Instead, they saw messages carried by foot, bike, and radio. They cut transport and expected isolation. Instead, they saw new paths form and vanish each day. Nothing stayed still long enough to control. In one district, alien patrols blocked a main road. The next day, people used rooftops and alleys. When those were watched, they moved at dawn instead of night. When that failed, they waited and helped closer to home. Pressure created change, not surrender. Anger began to show when aliens pushed too hard. When a patrol destroyed a shared food store, people shouted and threw stones. They did not attack blindly. They pulled back fast to protect children and elders. Their anger was sharp but brief. It did not turn inward. Michael saw this anger and understood it. He adjusted routes away from areas under stress. He told people to avoid places where anger might turn into loss. People listened. Anna spoke about the anger honestly. She did not shame it. She reminded people why they were angry. Not because of pride or control but because harm was done to shared life. She reminded them to protect each other first. Daniel Wright continued working in the background. With networks down, systems failed in new ways. He simplified again. He helped small generators run without screens. He taught others to do the same. He told them to expect failure and not fear it. If it breaks, he said, we learn. Emily Parker helped move the school center to a different building when patrols watched too closely. She changed routines daily so children did not grow attached to one place. She explained change as a normal thing, not a danger. Children adapted faster than adults. The aliens noticed something new. When humans were left alone, they were calm and cooperative. When pushed, they reacted with anger, but that anger turned outward, then softened into care. They pulled each other back from danger. They shared losses. They did not turn on one another. Alien analysts struggled to label this behavior. Anger usually caused chaos. Here it caused focus. Care usually came from safety. Here it came under threat. Another wave of pressure came. More transport cuts. More patrols. Humans responded by shrinking their plans. They stopped trying to move far. They focused on local strength. Each neighborhood became its own small world, connected loosely to others. Michael stopped trying to map the whole city. He mapped 3 streets at a time. Anna reduced her broadcasts to shorter updates so people could pass them on easily. Daniel stopped fixing everything himself and focused on teaching others. Emily helped parents turn homes into learning spaces. No single voice guided these changes. They happened because people talked, watched, and adjusted. The aliens searched for a command center. They found none. One evening, a patrol cornered a group moving supplies. Voices rose. Someone shouted. For a moment, it felt like violence would break free. Then an older man stepped forward and raised his hands. Others followed. They backed away together. The supplies were lost, but no one was hurt. The next day the route changed. From orbit, Earth looked more fragmented than ever. The aliens marked this as progress. Control through division, they believed. But on the ground, division was only on the surface. Beneath it, connections grew deeper. Anna ended her broadcast one night with a simple message. We are still here, she said. We are still choosing. Michael closed his notebook and burned old pages so patrols would not find them. Daniel shut down a system on purpose to prevent larger failure later. Emily read a story about storms passing. The aliens recorded rising human anger and assumed breaking point was near. They missed the other half of the pattern. Humans were angry when pushed. And when the push stopped, they turned that same strength into care, planning, and quiet work. The pressure continued. So did the change. The final push began without warning. Alien ships moved lower than ever before. Lights burned across the sky day and night. Loud signals rolled through cities like distant thunder. New messages appeared on walls, screens, and public spaces. This time the words were clear. Surrender now. Final deadline. No delay. Alien ground units spread into key areas. They blocked roads, surrounded buildings, and cut what little movement remained. Their plan was simple. Close every path. Create fear. Force humans to choose between obedience and destruction. They believed humans were tired and ready to break. Instead, humans moved with purpose. People did not rush the alien lines. They did not gather in crowds to shout. They did not chase victory. They focused on one thing first. Protect civilians. Everything else came second. Daniel Wright stood inside a half-dark power station with people he had never met before. A mechanic. A nurse. A college student. An old electrician who walked with a limp. There were no titles. No ranks. Daniel explained what needed to stay running and what could fail safely. They listened and offered ideas. Decisions were quick and shared. When an alien unit blocked access to the main power line, Daniel rerouted energy through older systems. It gave less power but enough for hospitals and shelters. When that path failed, he shut down sections on purpose to stop bigger damage. People complained at first, then understood. Darkness in one place meant light somewhere else. Across the city, Emily Parker moved with a group of parents and volunteers. The school could no longer stay open. Alien units were too close. Instead of arguing, they divided. Smaller safe spaces replaced one large one. Homes, basements, old shops. Children were moved quietly and calmly. Emily spoke to each child before they moved. She explained where they were going and why. She did not rush them. She made sure each child held an adult's hand. Fear showed on small faces but panic did not. They trusted her voice. Loss came quickly. A shelter was found and shut down. Supplies were taken. A medical team was forced to abandon equipment. News traveled fast by word and by radio. People felt the pain sharply. Some cried. Some sat in silence. Some wanted to fight back with anger alone. But anger did not take control. When an alien patrol destroyed a water point, people gathered for a moment. Voices rose. And shook. Then someone shouted for children to move back. Another person pulled an injured man away from danger. The group split and vanished before the patrol could react. The next day, 3 smaller water points appeared elsewhere. Alien plans began to slip. They expected humans to defend places. Humans defended people. Buildings were left behind. Streets were abandoned. Supplies were shared instead of stored. Every time aliens took control of something, its value dropped. Daniel worked side by side with strangers, sharing tools and ideas. When one plan failed, no one blamed him. They tried another. When someone made a mistake, it was corrected without shame. Time mattered more than pride. Emily spent hours walking between safe spaces. She checked on children, parents, and volunteers. She rested only when someone else forced her to sit. When asked how she kept going, she said stopping would scare the children more than the aliens ever could. Alien commanders watched the chaos below and did not understand it. Their models showed loss. Human infrastructure breaking. Resources dropping. This should have led to surrender. Instead, resistance sharpened. Humans blocked alien movement not with walls but with absence. Streets emptied. Signals disappeared. Routes changed daily. Delays stacked up. Every action aliens took met a response they had not predicted. In one district, alien units moved in to secure a transport hub. It was already empty. Supplies had moved the night before. The hub meant nothing. In another, aliens surrounded a hospital, expecting a stand. Humans had already moved patients elsewhere. The building stood silent. Loss still hurt. A family separated. A friend taken away. A shelter destroyed. Each loss cut deep. But instead of breaking people apart, it pulled them closer. They shared grief quickly and moved on together. Daniel felt the weight of every failure. When power dropped somewhere he could not fix, he closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them and worked again. Emily cried once, alone, when a child asked why this was happening. Then she wiped her face and kept walking. The aliens began to notice a pattern they had missed before. Human fury did not explode without control. It focused. It narrowed. It aimed itself at one goal. Protect life. When aliens applied light pressure, humans bent. When pressure increased, humans pushed back just enough, then shifted away. When threatened with force, humans pulled civilians behind layers of quiet effort. Alien commanders argued. Some said increase force. Others warned it was failing. Reports showed human anger rising but not turning inward. Violence against other humans stayed low. Cooperation stayed high. This made no sense to them. They reviewed recordings of humans shouting, then stopping to help each other. Of humans throwing objects, then pulling someone out of harm. Of humans losing ground, then reorganizing calmly. This is not chaos, one commander finally said. This is control of emotion. The realization spread slowly through their ranks. Human fury was not wild rage. It was a focused will. A refusal to allow fear to decide. A choice to protect others even while angry. Daniel and Emily crossed paths one night in a temporary shelter. They had never met before. They spoke briefly. Shared what they knew. Shared what they did not. Then they worked together without question. Engineer and teacher. Around them, strangers did the same. The final deadline passed. Nothing collapsed. Alien ships held position, uncertain. Their plans had failed. Not because humans were stronger but because they would not fight the way they were expected to. On the ground, humans rested for a moment then kept going. Loss remained. Fear remained. But so did purpose. The aliens watched Earth and for the first time did not see weakness. They saw a species that burned with fury when pushed, and used that fire to shield life instead of destroy it. That frightened them more than any weapon ever could. The change came quietly. No loud message filled the sky. No final threat echoed through the streets. One morning, people noticed the alien ships moving higher. Their lights dimmed. Patrols pulled back from the streets. Roads slowly opened again. It took hours before anyone believed what they were seeing. By nightfall, the truth became clear. The alien fleets were leaving. They did not announce defeat. They did not apologize. They simply withdrew, one formation at a time, sliding away from Earth like a dark tide pulling back into space. Satellites tracked them until they were distant shapes, then nothing at all. Silence followed. A deep, careful silence. People waited. Some feared it was a trick. Some expected the ships to return. Others sat down where they stood, too tired to react. When dawn came and the sky was still empty, relief spread slowly, like warmth after a long winter. Far above, inside retreating ships, alien commanders finished their records. Their final judgment was not about weapons or numbers. It was a warning. Humans were marked as dangerous. Not because they were strongest, not because they were fastest, but because they fought hardest when defending others. Because pressure did not make them turn inward. Because they refused to break. On Earth, healing began the same way resistance had begun. Quietly. Power returned in pieces. Not all at once. Daniel Wright stood in the same power station he had lived in for weeks. Machines hummed softly. Lights came on in nearby buildings. He watched people step outside and look up, confused and hopeful. He felt something loosen inside his chest. Daniel did not celebrate. He checked systems again. He walked routes he had memorized. He fixed what could be fixed and marked what could not. When others joined him, he showed them what he knew. He did not keep knowledge to himself. He never had. Soon, teams formed to rebuild what had been lost. Some cleared debris. Some repaired water lines. Some cleaned shelters and returned supplies. No one waited for official orders. People talked, listened, and acted. Cities looked damaged but alive. In neighborhoods, walls were repainted. Broken windows were covered, then replaced. Food centers stayed open even when shops reopened, because people had learned the value of sharing. Arguments happened, but they did not last long. Everyone was tired. Everyone remembered how close things had come to falling apart. Emily Parker walked through her old school building. Desks were moved. Walls were marked with drawings and notes left by children. She touched a doorway where a child had once stood, shaking with fear. The memory stayed with her. Classes resumed slowly. Lessons were shorter. Teachers spoke gently. Children asked questions about the aliens, about fear, about why adults cried sometimes. Emily answered honestly. She said the world was hurt but healing. She said people had protected each other. She said that mattered. One evening, Emily stepped outside and looked at the sky. It was quiet again. No shadows. No strange lights. Just stars. She felt tears come, not from fear but release. She breathed deeply and let the moment pass through her. Daniel watched a group of strangers rebuild a small bridge that had collapsed during the pressure days. They argued about the best way to do it. Then they laughed and tried again. Someone brought water. Someone brought food. Children carried small tools and felt important. Daniel realized something then. The aliens had not just tested human strength. They had tested human choice. And humans had chosen again and again to stand together. News spread across the world as connections returned. Cities shared stories. Not of heroes alone but of neighbors. Of quiet courage. Of moments when people could have turned on each other but did not. Some asked why the aliens left. Leaders tried to explain. Analysts debated. But most people did not need answers right away. They were busy rebuilding lives. Memorials appeared in simple forms. A bench. A painted wall. A shared garden. Loss was remembered but it did not freeze people in place. Grief moved with them as they worked. Alien records, sealed and distant, would later spread through the galaxy. Other species would read them with caution. Humans were unpredictable, the records warned. Not because they loved war but because they did not accept control over their choices. Because they turned fury into protection. Because they adapted faster than fear. On Earth, no one knew about those records yet. Daniel finally went home for a full night's rest. He slept deeply without dreams. In the morning he returned to work not because he had to, but because he wanted to help rebuild something better. Emily watched children play in the schoolyard again. Their laughter sounded strange at first, then normal. She smiled and joined a conversation with other teachers about how to move forward, not back. Earth did not declare victory. There were no parades. No conquest stories. Just steady work, shared effort, and quiet pride. Humans had not won by force alone. They had won by refusing to become what the aliens expected. They had bent without breaking. Changed without losing themselves. The sky remained quiet. And beneath it, humanity continued, wounded, wiser, and unbroken.